Welcome to my podcast, Double Espresso with D. In my first series, I will be talking to a number of incredible entrepreneurs, some new, young and aspiring, some highly established on the wild side for many years, and we will be hearing about their stories and their adventures. In my first podcast today, I am so excited to welcome the spectacular Kike Oniwinde. Hi, Kike. Hi, my gorgeous. So nice to see you.
You too. I feel like it's been forever.
It's been way too long, and we are so overdue a big conversation. So Kike, for the few people out there who may not have heard of you, I am just going to do a very brief introduction. Kike is a founder, an entrepreneur and CEO, founder of BYP Network, which is considered to be the LinkedIn for Black professionals internationally. It's expanding at a rapid pace, and it was born out of the challenge and problems that you felt and experienced as well, which we'll hear more about. In addition, Kike is a former international athlete, a javelin thrower, no less, seriously. The winner of many awards. I can't keep up, Kike, seriously. I looked at the recent list, and also on all the lists that matter. I am only going to mention a few of those because it's a very long list. So Forbes 30 under 30, well, you've had that for a while. Forbes 25 leading Black British business people to follow. Computer Weekly list of the most influential women in UK tech, the FT list for UK Bame 100 leaders. Seriously, it's very, very impressive. So you and I met some years ago through the Centre for Entrepreneurs. And since that time, we've had not enough, but quite a few coffees and more importantly, cocktails, and shared our lives, our stories, our highs, our lows. Kike, I'd like to start to talk about the year that's been. I mean, what a year. And, you know, at the Centre for Entrepreneurs, our research shows that this year there have been 14% more early stage businesses registered at Companies House, up on the previous year. You have gone through an incredible year. You've gone through a major fundraising round. You've built the team further. You're growing exponentially. How are you feeling about it all today?
Honestly, just yesterday I was reflecting on the year and just thinking about kind of how far we've come as a company, and the fact that, like, when COVID hit this March last year, I remember we put out a newsletter saying it's all about survival versus kind of thriving or dying, right? And we ended up thriving as a business, but it was all because we were very dynamic, we were quick thinking, we were innovative, and the very heart of BYP is the community. Yes. So ultimately, if it's about the community and it's a community company and the community is still there, then, you know, why wouldn't we have a business? As, you know, our aim is to give as much services to the community as possible. So we just went straight all out in content. You know, we were trying to be the place to go for the Black community for anything COVID related, careers, health, wealth, upskilling, like you name it. We literally turned out so many Insta lives, webinars, you know, conferences. Like, we just kept on going and going. And I think that, you know, it just felt like the right time as well to raise from the community. Even though obviously a lot of people were going through, let's say, furlough and redundancies, some people weren't able to find jobs. We felt like, actually, you know, this company is about the community. Let's get investment from the community so that we can really double down on being the platform we should be. You know, we felt like, you know, if that year was to happen again in, you know, a few years' time, like, BYP should be the go-to platform globally. Everyone should know about us. Everyone will be like, oh, BYP Network is where we need to go. And that's really our ambition. So it's been an intense year for sure, but I'm really proud of the way the company has grown.
No, it's incredible what you've achieved and what you've accomplished collectively. And tell me, of what you've just mentioned, the different themes that you put out, the different platform initiatives and so forth, were there one or two that really took off, that surprised you in terms of interest from the community?
Honestly, so we really started our corporate webinars last year. So we did a really strong one with Goldman Sachs, which I still think about because it was just so powerful. All the advice that they gave. The title was Leadership in a Time of Crisis.
Right.
And it, you know, it was by, like, you know, 4 top senior leaders at Goldman Sachs, Black senior leaders, and they just, they were so authentic. They gave us everything we needed to know, all
Such
about
like
just,
what? Give me an idea of something you personally took away.
kind of like feel the fear and do it anyway, right? Like you are leading in this moment. You are also feeling fear. You're also going through things, but you also have a team and you have people depending on you. And just by very right, you are seen. You are in a spotlight. So you still have to act accordingly. You still have to kind of, bat away some of your worries, your fears, and just go for it. And you might fail. You will fail. Failure is part of it. But the key is to learn from that failure and just keep going. And I think hearing those things from them who are like so top in their careers, and knowing I'm on my own journey and I've gone through different things, different worries and scares and failure, and hear that. So it made me kind of feel like, okay, I'm on the right path. I'm doing the right things. It really hit me. And at the back of that, we decided to do our leadership conference.
Yes.
Something we do yearly anyway, but we weren't too convinced about going online for it. And, because our offline event was so amazing, and, the energy in the room is what really made the event. So I wasn't convinced that having an online conference is the right choice. But after that event, you could feel the energy in that event, that I was like, okay, I guess the energy is there regardless, as long as we're all gathered together. And so off the back of that, we did our leadership conference.
Which was a huge success, right?
Yeah.
And tell me, in terms of, a lot of people are reflecting a year in on how business is conducted, how we engage with one another. There's a lot of talk coming out of places like, or research even coming out of places like Stanford on Zoom fatigue and what it means at a really fundamental level. I was talking to a dermatological surgeon recently, and he said he feels it's had an impact on people's facial structure. Their eyes are getting smaller, literally, because they're staring at a screen and staring at a human who isn't quite there. That said, I think there's a lot of positive that's come out, because we've understood, particularly when I started my career, you got on a plane the whole time. We've understood that we don't need to be doing that. What changes do you think you are or will be making to the business and how you run it post lockdown?
Yeah, I've really enjoyed remote working, basically. And I think that's here to stay for us. Just keeping it a remote company, no matter how many employees that we have. And also like the Zoom meetings with clients. But again, I've seen some clients that actually now want to meet up in person. So that's not really for us to decide, it's on them. But I really like those the most, just because with clients, it's quicker. You jump on a Zoom, and if you need another one the next day, you can do that too. And then before you know it, signed off, and then you keep it moving. Whereas offline, the deal process was so much longer. It took so long to kind of have that, when is someone's diary free? Not into a month's time, have that meeting in person. They now need to have a meeting with someone else. When is their diary free? And you can imagine it's like a 3-month, 4-month process. Whereas now, honestly, maximum 2 weeks. So, which is
such efficiencies, right?
So efficient,
So Kike, if we go back very briefly to the beginning, you come out of international sport, you see this need that isn't being met. And it's a story of all great entrepreneurs, isn't it? Solving a problem or meeting a need with what you create, which is what you've been doing spectacularly, I have to add. Take us back to that time and what got you going, and how are you, Kike, today different from that young woman then?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Sorry, big question.
Okay, if we go back, I guess, to just when I finished my sports, right? So at the time, I did quite a few investment banking internships. So during university, undergrad, and the whole summer scheme. And then I went to Florida to do my sport. And what essentially happened is that when I went to do my sport, my view was I was going to be an Olympic champion, world record holder. So that's why I went there, because the year I got my scholarship, I'd done so well. Like I was about 5-6 meters away from like Olympic standard. And I trained on my own at university. And I had just come off from having a broken back as well. So I had to do so much physio. And my grades were really bad at the time. Like there was so many things happening and I'm still able to throw that far. So for me, I was like, oh my God, if I'm going to Florida, I've got the whole medical facility. I've got all the support. I've got the good weather. I just didn't see how I wasn't going to, qualify for the Olympics. It just seemed like such a no-brainer.
Right.
But what actually happened is I kind of got there. And I guess now the word is imposter syndrome. I didn't know that was the word, but I had high anxiety. Like, it
Right.
kind of dawned on me, like, oh my God, I'm here in Florida, so far away from home. I'm on this like 100 grand scholarship. That's a lot of money. Are they sure? And then you're like trying to prove yourself. So I found myself always trying to prove myself, which meant that I was just always tense. And to do sports, you can't be tense. You have to be as relaxed as possible. But I was like, I just remember the whole time I was there, just always being on edge, always being tense. And that was like anxiety. So I couldn't perform to my best. So even though I did like well out there, like in terms of like top 5 ever in the school history, all of that. But
I know. I mean, what a record, right? Incredible.
Athletes understand, like, you go in there to be number one, right? Like, that is sports. So nothing's ever good enough. That's how it feels as an athlete. And so for me, it was like, okay, I went there with an objective. I didn't hit that objective, so, that in itself was quite frustrating. But what actually happened, and what in hindsight is like the reason I went to Florida, was actually to get the idea of BYP. I guess I didn't know that, right? Because when I went out there, before my mindset was just about sports. I was like, that's what I want to do. I didn't want to go to undergrad. I had to have an argument with my mum for me to actually go. I couldn't believe it. So that's how much I was like just super on being an athlete. And that experience meant that I had to open up my mindset of like, okay, what else as well? Like, I'm meeting all these incredible people doing different things. They're not just athletes, they're medics, they're entrepreneurs, they're tech people. And I remember just thinking like, wow, I didn't really know these other professions, or I didn't know these people existed, and they're so interesting. Why don't we ever see them on TV, on the news? And then I got to thinking like our role models are athletes and musicians.
Of course.
When the news shows anything, it's always negative, like knife crime, gun crime. Like there's never anything in between. There's never those people doing amazing thing in the community that isn't sports, music, or gang related.
Right.
And so all of that kind of got me just thinking like, oh, wow, this is like, wow, this is something quite interesting. But I guess it really came when I came back to the UK, and then I saw some of my friends were still unemployed. I started working in fintech, and I wondered like, okay, other Black professionals, where are they? Because there's not that many where I'm working. And, I go to work, I go home. How do you meet other people? It's just,
sure.
These things are just like, okay, what now? I've graduated.
It all evolved. And coming out of international competitive sport, and this is something you and I've talked about, what do you still take with you from that time? I mean, there's all the obvious things, but what would you say is really part of your DNA from that incredible period in your life?
So the main one is the fact that as an athlete, you don't, it's quite sad. It's like you don't really celebrate your wins. It's not a good thing, but because you're, like I said, you're always expecting to be number one. You always want to be the best. You want to get a new personal record. You're always like thinking, I could do better. So when you have that mindset, even when you're achieving, you're like, oh, there's more to come. It's like this achievement fallacy. Yeah. And technically I have carried that into business, but it's good. I've got people around me like, let's celebrate. Kind of like, yeah, this is great. Well done. We smashed it. Okay, let's go. It is a kind of keep moving. Again, I'm not saying that's a good thing, but that is, I think, why BYP keeps growing, because the mindset is like, oh, we can do more.
You're always moving forward, aren't you? So, Kike, just as a brief aside, given the fact that people have been in lockdown globally and haven't been able to move, what would you say to young people today who, were on the track, excuse the pun, that you were on, right? About to compete internationally, or, working their way into the elite sports space. What would you say to them? Because some of them probably feel they've lost a year, or they haven't been able to get out and compete, etc.
Yeah, I mean, I briefly kind of saw a bit of the sports Twitter and just saw how kind of sad the situation was. That 1 year is a big deal to miss in sports.
Absolutely.
Like, that could be the year that you blow, that you hit your peak and you hit your best. There's so many athletes that literally 1 year, everything happens, then the next year they're not as good. It happens all the time. So I can only imagine how many athletes feel kind of robbed because that year's gone. Maybe they were going to be the top in their year group as well. And that matters as well.
Of course.
So, and I read, I saw some articles that what's happened during COVID is that they've banned everyday athletes or athletes who are going to be elite from using the tracks, but only those on funding can use the facilities.
Right.
And that's really bad because it happened when I was at Loughborough, when I used to train there. They only let the funding athletes use the gym at certain times, but everyone else is on their way up. We just haven't got there yet. And we aren't getting the funding. When you get no support until you literally make it. So imagine now as an entrepreneur, you get no support until you actually hit $1 billion valuation. That's essentially what they do in sports. Right. So there's a lot of people who are just really like, down, they're quitting, they feel lost because some of them didn't go to university, or if they did, they weren't thinking about careers. I think for all those people, it's just about taking stock, just one, being grateful that you're alive, you're well, you're fit, assessing your plan. So even though you missed that year, the training that you did do, where has it got you? Have you maintained your level of fitness? Have you regressed? Maybe then you have to, work a bit harder for this new season, train a bit harder or still be careful in terms of injury, but just really reassess your plan essentially and know if this is something you still want to do. Yeah. And just accept that fate is fate, right? The year has gone, everyone missed out on it. So it was no one's year, essentially. It
was no one's year, and we all have to move forward, right? And not have eyes in the back of our head looking backwards, in my view. Yeah. So Kike, talking about you, how have you changed? And, I'd like to touch on the challenges for women in business and women entrepreneurs. And clearly you tick an awful lot of boxes. I mean, one, you're a spectacular individual, but, with the narrative that we've seen over the past year with young people, what's happening in with Black Lives Matter, all these different themes, you are not just running a fast scaling, dynamic business, which is going global and is going the whole way. Go Kike. But also, you're much in demand and people want you. And we've touched on this, they want the founder, they want the woman at the top. Not that you necessarily see yourself in that light. How have you coped with that? And what has the impact been on you? Because there's only one of you, there's only so much energy, gas in the can. What have been the challenges to you and how have you managed?
Yeah, great question. I think so. Last year, again, when COVID hit, it was just full steam ahead. I just zoned in. I just, was on my laptop from like 9 a.m. to 12, a.m. It was just nonstop. And I felt fine doing it. I felt energized. I don't know where that energy came from. And I did over about 40 talks last year. It was it was so many. And again, I didn't realize I had the capacity to do those 40 talks. And I just kept going. And then I just crashed. That's the best way to describe how it felt. It was like I just didn't want to do another talk. I just don't want to do any more.
Was it physical or was it psychological? Were you just like, I've had enough?
I think it was both. It was both. Like psychologically, like if I thought about a talk, I actually got a headache. Right. So like, we're doing this now.
It was real.
Yeah. Like I didn't do any kind of speaking engagement for about 3 months, essentially. Anytime anyone would contact, we'd say no. And even now, I've limited it. Like I can't mentally, the thought of having to do that many speaking engagements just still gives me a headache. And I think I think I don't have that energy I had last year. I don't have that. Maybe that wasn't really me. That was somebody who COVID has struck and I was in fight mode. And obviously fight mode is not permanent. Fight mode is just in that mode. But now I'm back to normal, I've just dipped, because that energy was actually a lot. And Zoom fatigue, as I said, is real. I'm staring at
so real.
Back to back, cameras, doing recordings and stuff, and just kind of giving my everything, and then just thinking, oh my God, my body is just done, my head is just done. So it definitely has taken a toll, and I think it's a good thing though, because I know that I've given a lot. That's one thing I can put my hand on my heart and say, I know I've given a lot, and there's only so much I can give, because at the end of the day, health is wealth, and so I just need to focus on my well-being. And if it's a no, it's a no. Even if someone's upset or offended, there's nothing I can do about that. I just need to, and also my business speaks volumes. We do so many webinars, upskilling, we sponsor events where we're everywhere. We gave out 1,000 free books just this last month for marketing. Incredible. Like we do so much. So like, I'm like, take the stuff my business is giving. I don't have to be the one all the time. And I think that's the fight, because like you said, it is still demand. It still comes. So it's a growth. I'm growing.
And how do you, people like us, we don't necessarily talk about everything being in balance because we just give everything we do our all. And, I don't think we use the kind of work-life balance terminology so much, but it is, some degree of equilibrium is important because because of families and connections and relationships and so forth. How do you create time for really you and not being, the CEO, the founder, the woman charging ahead at the helm of an incredible business, the example that you set? Because as we all know, whether you have a team of 2 or whether you have a team of 50 or 50,000, they look to you. You're the leader, right? So how do you do you and create time for you and for the relationships and for all those other things that really matter to you outside charging ahead in the business?
Yeah, so I'd say last year, so from when COVID hit till, about the end of the year, that there was barely any time for me. It was literally just working. I had to, even some things I was like, I'm just going to be honest, there was no work-life balance, but there wasn't anything to be balanced is also how it felt because we were locked down, so it's like, I didn't see, I'm not someone, I don't meditate or do any of that stuff or yoga, which I probably should. So I didn't see.
We'll talk about that separately.
I didn't see an alternative. It's like, well, I might as well be on my laptop. I might as well respond to this email. So last year was like, there wasn't much time for me. I managed to go away for 2 weeks to Aruba.
Beautiful.
And I didn't do any work in that period. And so
was that weird? Did that feel strange?
It felt nice, to be fair, because it was so much work, and we got BYP to a place where we could hire more people as well. So getting those people in who were like taking over segments, you could feel that difference. So it was actually a nice place of like, wow, all the sacrifice did lead to high output. So I'm very happy about that. Whereas now, I don't work weekends, for example. I try to shut my laptop by about 8. Some people are like 8.
She got missing in action.
Right? I tend to chill on like Fridays, so like just put some music on, got shisha here and, some cocktails. So I try and put those moments in and do like an hour walk a day as well.
Well done.
So it's become more like, and my mindset now is more like, okay, I need to make sure I'm taking time and, resting. And sadly, I've got long COVID. So
I know.
So I'm quite fatigued, headache. So that has now also added to the pressures. So
I know. I'm so sorry to hear that. And that just takes its own time, right? So you just have to look after yourself, really, and put yourself in as number one, which I know, is difficult to do given everything else that's going on. Tell me, looking out to the future, what are you excited about?
I'm always excited, funny enough.
You are actually.
Even back when we Nest days, right? That's like nearly 3 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
I've always been an excited person. I'm genuinely quite always looking forward to the future, and oh my God, I'm so grateful. And so that is my general attitude. So even if something happens, I'm not I don't take it all in and celebrate massively. I am still the next day oh wow, it didn't have to be that way. Like, how amazing is that? So I'm just excited for the growth of BYP Network. Every day I'm always just like, we haven't even started. Like, this is just the beginning. It's still so heavily UK focused, even though our membership is global. And we're like, this year really, really is about expanding globally and having ambassadors in different cities. That was the aim last year, but obviously once COVID hit, we couldn't do those plans. So now we shifted it to this year. And our conference at the end of the year, October 29th, we really want to make that a hybrid spectacle. So I'm excited just about the innovation of BYP Network and the impact it can really have, and it is already having. I think that's what excites me. I've been able to actually come up with an idea that is a real solution for the Black community.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. And you have been down an incredible road. And I'm super excited to see how it all goes ahead and how it evolves and develops and grows. And you're clearly on the point of going really, really big, which is obviously, given where we started and how we got to know one another, is incredibly special and emotional for me personally, I have to say. So Kike, listen, couple of things. I always ask my guests a couple of questions. So I have a couple of questions for you before we wrap. One, if you have a superpower, what would it be? So in my case, I guess my superpower is my talent, if I have one, is really making people shine and making them a better version of themselves, so that they can really shine and rise, What would you say your superpower is?
Oh my God. I feel I should know this. I guess for me, what I've gathered about myself or when I compare it to other people that have also achieved a lot, I think my superpower is the fact that I'm able to check my own privilege and then open doors for other people.
Yeah.
So like the very concept of BYP is that, hold on, I've been getting these scholarships, these bursaries, these internships. I get this job quickly. I was able to get so many things so easily because, they saw, my CV was stellar, whatever it was. And I was like, hold on, there's not other people that look like me. How do I get them in? How do I give them opportunities? And then since then, all I am always trying to do is plug people. Like I enjoy plugging people and just open the door. So I get in, open it for other people. And I think it sounds weird. I don't know if that is a superpower, but just opening
I think
doors.
it is. And also I think that, you're not just doing it for one person. You're through the platform amplifying this a la grande, right? On will soon be a very significant international level. So that's a mega superpower in my book. One last little question.
Yeah.
No, I was saying in yoga, we always talk about everyone we meet is a teacher. We learn something, even the people that, we like less. And of course, those we like more. What's the thing in the past year or 2 years that you've learned that's really going to stay with you for the rest of your life? And who's that been from? You don't need to name names, but give us a context.
I think what I've learned, and it's from my mum, because I learn a lot from her. She's always been such a kind of, just a calm woman who just, forgiveness is always key, humility, just having no expectations of other people as well. So what I think I've learned is just to be calm, basically, to be still. So like, again, if I look back at last year, I could not have predicted we'd be here. I could not have predicted the year we had. But all we essentially did was just, we were still, but we moved forward with it. So that faith and that calmness is what is key. Like I generally operate in a way where I'm just like, I wholeheartedly believe in my future. I wholeheartedly believe in BYP Network. So I don't have any doubts. I don't have the anxiety I had when I was an athlete, in Florida. I'm just always at peace. And it feels so lovely to be at peace, to not be afraid about what's coming. And also to know that, life is full of traumas. Traumas do happen, and I can't predict the trauma that will come. But you know what? Honestly, as sad as it is, everything does happen for a reason, and there's a learning in everything. So just being able to be still and trusting in the process, trusting in my journey in the future is what's key. And I think that has been my biggest learning. Like I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of the future.
Oh, you definitely are not. And, I guess in a way that's the biggest gift, isn't it? Peace of mind, which, you display in spades. Kike, we have to wrap. It's been such a joy to see you. Thank you for sharing with me today. It's been so wonderful to see your beautiful face. And, the second we can get out, you and I are going to our favorite place for cocktails. Okay.
Yes. Can't wait, honestly. Cannot
Listen,
wait. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, my gorgeous, and good luck with the TV show tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
Let me know. Lots of love. Bye.